Hey everyone, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in not really the team room. We're in a billeting or hotel room here at the Academy. So not my favorite location, but I'm glad to be here. I brought my buddy from class. We're getting to that in a second. First of all, thank you for subscribing. I already thanked you, so don't make it weird. I already thanked you. So hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and go out and support us. But guest today, Brian Davis. I don't want to say your rank. That's weird because we're like friends, right?
Yeah.
From my class, but like, dude, super excited to have you on the podcast. And
thanks for having me.
Let's do the intros. Tell us about you.
Yeah. So Brian Davis, appreciate you having me. First and foremost, I'm a 17-year Air Force active duty. I've had a multiple array of AFSCs from hydraulics, aircraft hydraulics on C-17, C-5s. Went to recruiting, came back to hydraulics for a couple years, and then got forced cross-trained phase 3 to MQ-9s, which was a whole new venture. And I'm currently sitting as a AMU assistant superintendent, which is a fancy word for an administrative specialist. EPR guru, or performance report guru, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first thing, not to like jump off subject right away, but since our audience is mostly people that are thinking about joining, what do you mean forced cross-trained? And is that something that happens on a regular basis? And like, was it a bad experience? I don't know. I've never been forced cross-trained.
No. Absolutely great question. I love getting into this discussion specifically because it's eye-opening, but it's also unusual. So not unusual to cross-train. Very unusual the way mine went down. So I did recruiting, as I told you, as we spoke about, from 2012 to 2016. Was in Dover, went to Dover from Panama City. So recruiting Panama City, got an assignment to Dover, which was a whole nother venture in and of itself. During that year time frame, the first year in, I was on the flight line majority of the time, leading a hydraulic shop as a shift leader. Would go on a couple of maintenance recovery teams to go get aircraft that are broken down within the global system, bring them back home. And then I went to expedite for the MXS, which is another unusual job, but we'll leave that as it is. And then one day I got an email that said, "Congratulations" from my personnel, and I deleted it. And I said, well, because, you always get those emails.
Yeah, sorry, my first folks.
Yeah, you just always get those emails, right? So I went back into my deleted folder about 5 minutes later. It said, "Congratulations, you've been selected for mandatory retraining." I was like, that's a good way to put it. At first, I thought it was flight engineer, and I was like, I don't know about that. But that was just the example of what it could have been. And it said 2 Alpha 378, which denotes for an Air Force specialty code of RPA maintainer. Okay. So remotely piloted aircraft. So I could either go on to an RQ4, which is strictly surveillance, or an MQ-9 platform, which is ISR with combat capability. So yeah, right. And that's, so subsequently, I did ask, how did I get chosen? Because I was only in Dover for 1 year and 1 month and a few days. So there was 14 of us hydraulic troops, 2 Alpha 6s. And I was the youngest, not only the youngest one, but the youngest tenured on that base. Never got the answer. So definitely not upset about it. I think the whole new adventure was amazing. I went to Holloman for about 17 months and then had to move for medical purposes for the family up to Las Vegas, Nevada, to Creech Air Force Base in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. So great experience all around. I highly recommend for your subscribers, people who are interested, to ask the recruiter a little bit more about retraining and what's involved in it. Because a lot of times to get into the Air Force, sometimes you got to take a job you're not familiar with or you don't necessarily want. But first-term airmen are always allowed, 90% of the time allowed to retrain. Right. Depending on criticality of if that's a word, criticality.
It is now.
It's my word. If it's a critically manned career field or not, what that you're in. So
right, but for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, lot to unpack there. Yeah, I got a lot of questions. So like, if y'all aren't tracking in the class, one of my favorite things about being at the Academy, maybe my only favorite thing about being at the Academy, is getting to know everybody else. Right. And so like when you say things like hydraulics, I have no idea what that means. I'm pretty ignorant. So like first job, right? Yep. What does that entail?
So hydraulics craftsman or journeyman craftsman, and then apprentice is the first stage. But anyway, so Air Force has 3 level, 5 level, 7 level. You have hydraulics apprentice, which you're just learning the theory of hydraulics. How do we take fluid and put it on an area and make it move a large surface? right, for an aircraft. So that's what kind of theory we get into. And then not only do we need to know the theory of it, we need to understand how to troubleshoot. So everything from hydraulic reservoirs to where we hold the fluid, to actuators, to flight control modules, which port the fluid to the respective flight control surface, right? Starting to get a little bit into it. But essentially, when you're flying, everything from your engine running to your gears moving to your flight controls moving, basically you being in the air, that's the bloodline of an aircraft, is hydraulics.
I mean, I've been on 53s before, and they say if they're not leaking, they're not flying.
That's a C5 for you, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. And that's all your hydraulic fluid and whatever else is in those lines as you slip out the back of the helicopter.
To put it into perspective, for a C5 specifically, it's approximately, it could be give or take. If anyone of a hydraulic specialty hears this, they'll probably slaughter me. But there is around 1,000 miles of hydraulic lines in a C5.
Jeez.
1,000 miles.
It's a fair bit.
That's just a little grip.
So troubleshooting can be labor intensive?
Troubleshooting on C5s, absolutely, because of the age of the aircraft, not necessarily the miles and miles of the lines, because lines don't inherently go bad, right? Like you're talking hardened lines don't inherently go bad. It's the brake. I lost it. It's been a while since I've been on the aircraft,
like a friction point, or
no, yep.
I don't know.
As I say in class, that whatchamacallit. No, faults that flip for brakes, flight control surfaces, pitch trim actuator, which is on the top of the T-tail. The front of the T-tail goes down and up. Little things like that. Oh, man, servos. We'll call it a servo.
Okay.
For now. I'll probably get slaughtered on that one too.
Yeah. to be fair, that's not your job anymore.
Yeah. Hey, I dumped it. I went straight over to I'll probably know it right in the middle of this podcast, and I'll just jump in with it.
Wake up at 3 a.m. and be like, I knew it. Why am I so dang? So like, yeah, that's a lot. Is it aircraft specific? Like, do you go to a tech school and know which aircraft you're going to get, and are you stuck with that aircraft, or can you just move around? Like hydraulics is hydraulics.
Hydraulics is hydraulics. At the end of the day, they never shredded out hydraulics like they did for MQ-9, RQ-4, or some of the bombers, crew chiefs like that. So whenever I was taking my SKTs, you had to know everything from a C5 to a helicopter to, excuse me, to when we were testing for our next rank, you had to know job knowledge from anything from helicopters to a back shop that works on off equipment parts. So the parts that need to be overhauled, actuators taken apart, resealed, put back together, to C5s, to fighters, and everything in between. So it was a interesting test we had to take when you never worked on said aircraft. So, and
the guys that go in to write, or folks that go in to write your SKT tests, obviously they're victims of their own experience, but they do a pretty good job of spreading the peanut butter out over everything.
Yep. Yeah. And then obviously for the guys who are coming in, they start learning about how to test take correctly for the weighted airman program for the testing. That MKTS that's in the back, I do believe that's what it's called. MKTS, a bunch of acronyms.
I don't know. You Air Force better than I do.
That it shows the amount of questions for PDG, for the PDG specifically, the Professional Development Guide, our skills knowledge testing. Yeah, they do. You get to master your CDCs.
Yeah. I think we do a pretty good job of like telling our guys where specifically we got all of the data from, for our questions. Yeah. And so then they're not like running through JP's, like it's like, hey, I pulled this out of this. Like where? I don't know, man. Go find it. This one piece of information where I pulled a question from. We narrow it down to a couple pages or subjects. Right. And that way they're not trying to memorize, ginormous documents.
I think the Air Force as a whole has done a lot better job over the years to get to that spot. For 2 Alpha 3s, for my NCOs, the RPA mechanics, they did a complete CDC rewrite. So when they did that, they're like, well, there's going to be 2 years without y'all doing anything, right? Like without y'all testing. But then 2 years became 3 years, and now we're at year 4, I think. I do believe I could be a little bit off.
PDG only.
So, well, they introduced it to saying, hey, you need to learn these things in the 21101, which is our AFI, our Air Force instruction. It's the maintenance Bible is what we call it, right? Every AFSC has their own Bibles. Yeah. That's our Bible. And then 0020-1, which is a TO, technical order publication. which goes over inputting jobs into our maintenance informational system. I'm getting way deep into the woods, but
yeah,
there's a lot, right? They did provide accurate data for them to review and study in order to be successful in the test.
There we go. Good. So, all right. So you're in hydraulics. Loved it.
I did. I absolutely love the C17. I almost said C5. That would have gotten me. No.
What's wrong with the C5?
C5 is called Fred.
Okay. I'm learning stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever heard of that acronym?
No.
So for people at home or in their cars and it's turned up, turn it down if you have anyone with shy ears. But a Fred it's been around. C5 has been around since the 60s, and it's called a fucking ridiculous economical disaster.
I mean, that's just a fact.
That's a fact, right? I mean, it's just is what it is. But no, it's has a horrible mission reliability rating, which means how often it meets the missions that is assigned to it. Its worldwide capability rate is horribly down, which is where it's at worldwide, right? Like the amount of C5 aircraft that are broken or capable of doing worldwide missions at any time, way down. C-17s are great. They have a high reliability rate, over 80%, 85% the last I saw. Been a couple of years since I've been on them, but yeah. So no, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Went to Iraq for a couple of weeks. Got to actually really experience what that kind of war was like, just fixing a couple aircraft. I went out there to fix a couple aircraft to come home. But during that time, a nose gear. So the strut blew out. There's seals and struts. And the struts and the seals themselves rolled over when the aircraft landed, and it blew out hydraulic fluid all over the ramp. That aircraft was assigned to be a medevac. So once we figured out what had happened, we saw fluid on the ramp, and then it exploded like it just started pouring. But by that time, they're so quick with those medevacs, as you've seen before, that all these guys who were barely clinging on to life in Balad in 2007 they're already loaded. So that really was my first experience. I get still chill bumps because when we told the pilot, he looked at me, and because I was the subject matter expert as an A1C, brand new 5 level. He's like, Davis, what do we need to do? I said, sir, this plane can't go anywhere. And he looked at all of us. He said, everyone get these bodies, get these soldiers, Marines, Navy off this aircraft. They unloaded an aircraft that was getting loaded right next to us, and we hand carried litters with medical over to that other aircraft, and all of us together set up. So as you know, and just to inform the audience, C-17s also are used as medevac aircraft. They have every capability to be a medevac aircraft.
There's not much the 17 can't do.
Yeah, barrel rolls are not preferred on C-7, even though it was a pressurized system for hydraulics. But yeah, no, that really opened my eyes to the importance of honestly the combat community, the people who really go out and do the things that we support, so. Yeah,
but to make a point there, because the multi-capable airman thing, we've heard about it here a bunch. We've spoken about it, and we all have different levels of opinions on it.
Right.
But I've never been in a situation around any other service member where something absolutely had to be done, especially if people's lives are on the line,
right,
where everybody wasn't pitching in and doing everything possible outside of their skill set to get it done, right?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes when we think about that, and even, someone said it the other day, it's a mindset.
Yep.
And so we're as we think about these new buzzwords and all this other stuff, it's like, hey man, if you've seen it, you know what it is, and you know that for the workers out there, we got it. It's already there.
Right.
So I just, sometimes I get confused about where it doesn't exist.
So
sorry, that was a left turn.
No, because it's funny you say that. For the MCAs, multi-capable airmen, or MCAs as we'll call it from here on out. I'll start giving them a pre-acronym, and then I'll use the acronym, just like in our background papers, right? So multi-capable airmen, it's all about how you, as you said, unpack it. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to your career field as opposed to mine, and vice versa, and to others? The way I perceive what General Brown and Chief Bass are saying is that war isn't a maybe anymore. It's becoming more and more likely,
right?
Not maybe or perhaps or could. It's likely with near peers. And there's going to come a time that, we're going to have to do things well outside of our comfort zone, whether it be me pick up an M4 in the event of North Korea invading South Korea, right when I go over there in February. it's a real possibility. I understand that as a 17-year, master sergeant, soon to be senior. But our airmen, I don't think understand it. They need to really understand that it's not just about your job. It's about you being an airman as a whole.
Right.
So,
well, let me check something real quick. It's driving me nuts. Okay. I just want to make sure that the mic was on and we weren't just talking.
Yeah.
And recording. Cool. That's pretty awesome. But like that, I mean, that's just a culture thing, right? And I don't think that our culture has changed. I think we're quick to jump on, the next generation and make judgment calls about them because they're not exactly the way that we remember ourselves, which may or may not be accurate. The right. level, I don't think a lot of us spend a lot of time thinking about how often we complained about stuff and how many times an NCO had to come along and kick us in the behind.
Or slap you in the head.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And fix you up, right? So. Yeah. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic about. I'm optimistic about our culture. I think it's fine in the next generation, but that was kind of a left turn. You leave hydraulics.
I did. So I was in hydraulics for 6 years. I was in Charleston for the first couple.
Oh dang!
And then I got assigned. Beautiful. It's a whirlwind, right? So for your audience as well, the prospective future airman. Your first couple of years are a whirlwind in the Air Force, especially if you do. I can only imagine special tactics airmen at the pipeline, and you're getting pulled every which way. Everything's a blur, but it was a blur for me, right? For my first 28 months, I got assigned to Spangdahlem, Germany, in the en route, which is en route for the Air Forces, where aircraft stop on the way to their final destination to drop off goods, beans, bullets, people.
Got it.
And then they come back through, they get refueled, and they go back home. Right? It's just a constant, perpetual cycle. Beautiful. Some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life in those 4 years. That's when we did the surge into Iraq and Afghanistan, and then the subsequent Libya, Benghazi happened when I was in Spangdahlem, and that's when the F-16 unit from Spangdahlem ginned up, and we were loading everything and going, right? So quick turn, aircraft land, and got to leave within 5 hours. And we had 5 people on shift for 10 aircraft a day, 15 aircraft that would come through a day. Trying times. So I was a little bit worn out. And after those 4 years in Germany, I clicked the button, or we used to do the old school fax in our application to be a recruiter.
We don't have enough time to explain fax machines.
Oh, yeah, they do. That's all you need to know. But yeah, went and applied to be a recruiter and got accepted right before the developmental special duty came out.
Right. Cool. How was recruiting?
Recruiting is definitely unique. I miss it. It's absolutely necessary. You have to have a charismatic mindset, or you're going to struggle. Now, keep in mind, I was in Panama City, Florida, so it was such a struggle bus being on the beach, and going to zone canvas and go fish a little bit.
We feel bad for you.
Yeah, it's a tough life. Awful. Extra $450 a month. So no, great experience, and that was a 4-year stint as well. So
okay. Well, I mean, enthusiasm. Isn't that the thing? I've been over to the schoolhouse.
Boy, are we enthusiastic. That is, I'll never get that out of my head, unfortunately.
You mentioned in class the other day, which I thought was funny. We talk about recruiters and perceptions.
Right.
Recruiters lie is the perception.
Allegedly.
But someone brought up something, and you actually piped up. You're like, that's the only thing I thought I might have lied about in my entire recruiter career, and thank goodness I didn't lie about it.
Yeah, for the dog handlers. That's a good thing for security forces. Dog handlers. They would always ask me. They, as in the young applicants, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I would always say you have the opportunity. Yeah. So it's a real recruiters work in a gray area of verbiage. Right? We're very hard set on certain things. You're not inappropriate with your applicants. Things like that. Right? Yeah. But as far as when you sell the Air Force, you're honest, but you use broad brushstroke words. So you'll have the opportunity. You could perhaps go here if this assignment is open.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one that I was always wondering about. But no, I never had to lie to the prospective future airmen. I just told them my experiences, and I told them up front if I had the job or I didn't, or you're going to have to wait a year, or you're just not going to join at all. So we also did battlefield airmen at that time. We didn't have what's what we called y'all battlefield airmen, special tactics airmen, everything that ranged from EOD, TAC-P, special ops weather, or we called it SAL-T at the time,
yep,
to combat controller and pararescue. And we would do the the practice test. I'm sure you've spoken about the practice test, the past tests.
Yeah, it's called the IFT now.
The IFT, what is it?
Initial fitness test.
Yeah. And I saw some guys throw up, pass out, almost drown, all while a couple good old now retired CCTs were like, "Hey, get out. Come on.
You done.
You're out." So no, very, very good time. And actually put in 1 PJ and 2 TAC-Ps and 1 EOD. The EOD young man that I put in won 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year out of Hill Air Force Base. So when I saw him, I leave his name out of it. I'm not sure if he wants to get called out, get a shout out, but amazingly hardworking young man. Went from being a PJ in the pipeline or pre-pipeline, and they're like, "Hey, I forgot that test that y'all take. Basically, ask you if you had a choice, if you had to decide whether kicking a dog or kicking your mom, which one would it do?"
Oh,
would
like one of the personality tests.
Correct. And they're like, "Hey, you're not going to make it through PJ training. Like it's 100% attrition for people with your scores, but you're high, very low percent attrition for EOD. Would you like to do it?" And he chose it, and he passed. And that 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year.
That's weird.
So that's what drove me in recruiting, and I really enjoyed 161 people I put in 4 years. Don't know how many are still in.
Yeah,
but yeah, I pride myself on at least doing a little bit. So,
well, obviously you remember a fair amount of those folks. Like you build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So obviously the battlefield airman types, was there anything about them, the ones that were successful, that stood out to you more than the ones that showed up and weren't successful?
Drive.
Yeah.
Drive, never quit. No matter how bad things got, you could tell, because I would ask them when they came and did recruiter's assistance with me, is how did you do it? TAC-P. TAC-P is still a hard pipeline to go through. And the guys that did it, they had it. You know, there's a certain thing with special tactics airmen. Obviously, there can always be 1 or 2 that make it through that you're like, how the hell did you get here?
Yeah, you don't have to
I'm atting you right now at Trent. But no, there's it's just unique. Their attitudes, like Cameron Haynes or David Goggins. It's like, I'm not freaking quitting. Like, go ahead and crap on me all you want. And I think that's, I imagine from when I talk to some of your buddies and your counterparts, they're like, yeah, as long as you don't quit, you can make it through. You just have to have a little bit of smarts sometimes,
a little bit,
and a no quit attitude. Right. So,
yeah. Well, the discipline, right? Because one of the things that we run into a lot is the folks that, that they start motivated. And we're talking about this with other stuff in class today. I think one of our people was talking about it. And it's like, oh, at some point along the way, these people lose their motivation or whatever else. And that's why I piped up in class. I'm not sure if anybody understood really what I was trying to say, but I had to get it out of my brain. I'm like, well, they need the discipline. Right. Because like your motivation will wax and wane. But if you have that discipline and that no quit attitude, no matter what you get into, because like it's funny. I listen to you guys talk about your job in the classroom. I'm like, bro, that is rough. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you can't be out there on the flight line and just be like feeling sorry for yourself all the time. You got to have like a reason to keep going and that discipline to just get the mission done. Yeah. And that's what is missing in a lot of airmen's minds. They don't understand what the mission is about because supervisors don't take the time to, not all, but a lot of the times, supervisors are so busy with their own, jobs that they're having to accomplish that the airmen, either they don't know or they don't seek out information of what at the end of the kill chain, the proverbial kill chain. For heavies, it's a lot harder to really put into a package. With MQ-9s, it's very easy, especially during the height of us destroying ISIS. Yeah, which I was deep into in Kuwait, which was awesome. So let's do it. That's a segue. So already explained. I'm a little segue into there. Already explained how RPA came to be. I get to Holloman Air Force Base. Great assignment. Love Holloman. For everyone that is worried about Holloman Air Force Base or Cannon, first off, go to Holloman. Don't go to Cannon. But Holloman, Cannon is an amazing. That's almost an unlimited pot of money for even the maintainers out there. So, it might not be the greatest location per se, but you're in the middle of everything. Colorado's north of you. It is what you make of it. You got Santa Fe over there, Taos, Roswell. You can go see some weird aliens. Yeah, but yeah, I loved Holloman. I love the area. I love the location and the mission. So volunteered. I had a line number for E7,
and we had a copious amount of E7s, E7 Select. So I asked to go and to be an expediter to push maintenance in Kuwait. I was given the green light to do that. Went over there, sewed on E7 while I was over there, and then sat in one of my really good buddies, Cody Beeran. He took me under his wing. He was my production superintendent, which manages flight line maintenance, and he allowed me to be the pseudo production superintendent. So learned a lot. But with that, we were also connected to the ops. So the ops is the aircraft pilot sensor operator. So the pilot flies the aircraft. The sensor operator manages the sensor, which is the ball,
the camera, the systems, all the other stuff.
So it's valued at, it's the most expensive part on the aircraft, like singular part on the aircraft. It's valued at, between the old models are south of 2 million. The newer models are close to 3 million, just for that ball.
Don't drop that.
Do not drop that ball. Right. So yeah, so we were intimately close work-wise with these guys. So we got to see UVids, and got to see the action of what our aircraft would do. So we would load them up with 4 Hellfires, which are AGM 114s, and they vary of what they can do. They have time delay fuses, they have air fuses, and they have impact. So we would have variations on there, and then we would have also 4 AGM on each loadout, and then 1 500-pound GBU, which is the guided bomb unit. Nice. It would be a GBU 38 is what we used on those, which is GPS, not laser, not the big old pointy out the front. We had a handful of times they came back Winchester, which Winchester means empty.
Yeah.
And we knew when they came back empty that we had some fun to watch. We had an album, no pun intended, called The Greatest Hits.
There you go.
So, but it really allowed our airmen to see what we were doing to further the America's national interest and protect people in Syria and in Iraq. Yeah,
you get that direct, battlefield effects. Like you just watched it take off.
Yeah.
And it comes back Winchester. You watch the video. Yeah. And then if you heard the story about behind it, like we had people on the ground, X, Y, and Z was going down. These are exactly what happened. Like, hey, it can be, I would say it's not fun to watch this, but if you look on YouTube, anybody that's like, oh, like that's sick, like those videos get millions of views. So obviously it's pretty popular. But like, you're saving people by killing. We talk about it all the time, saving people by killing people, and getting after the mission. So that's got to be, I think that'd be pretty rewarding.
Yeah. So I'll key in. I think it was Curtis LeMay during World War II who stated, "You rather take out for Japan when you nuke the civilian population, you kill 2 million people, but it's going to save 10 million people's lives." I forgot what verbiage he used, but basically it was for the sake of humanity that we're going to go ahead and tear him up. I think he wanted to tear up a little bit more, which I think he wanted to go into China on his. Child, he was a little bit wild with that cigar, but so a couple of examples. I know you said you wanted to hear a few examples of what we had seen. So we had one that a gentleman was going through a palm field, so running parallel to palm trees, and he was carrying an RPG.
Okay.
And we had him in white hot. So for white hot, the infrared white hot, and they got the 9-line, which I don't know if you've ever explained to people what a 9-line is, but they got the 9-line to where they go up to the head. The head, I think it's usually an 06 minimum, saying, "Hey, yep, take that individual out." They got the 9-line, and what you see is you see a little red box. I believe it says laser des.
Yeah. And
it shakes. The ball shakes, and that's when you know a Hellfire shot shoots off. Yeah. So then all it is sit there and wait. But it varies. It varies between a couple miles away from the individual to upwards of 20 miles away from them.
Holy cow.
So these things are very insane, which we can get into in a second with, when we go into Ukraine and what we can do over there, or what we will be doing. Anyway, we sit, wait. This man just stops for a second. The sensor stops on it, or the camera, and the missile hits him on the top of the head and splits him in half. And he just stays right there, and essentially like crumples but folds.
Right.
And that's called a banana split. So that's what we designated that one as. We had a really bad dude on a motorcycle that we blew up. I think we caught the backside of him though.
Oh.
And so it didn't kill him all the way. So he's sitting there. Right. So we were like, oh man, got to put this guy out of his misery. Well, they zoom in and they see a light come up. And they're like, what's this? What's this? The color variation changed. So they zoomed in, really good cameras, and the guy's flipping us off from the ground. Right? So then he, shortly thereafter, he expired. At least he kept his energy.
Yeah.
All the way through the end. So he expired soon thereafter. And then, one more was a guy got hit. He crawled throughout the street while they were getting another 9-line on him and hit him, I do believe, with a time delay fused. That's probably all we had left. I don't recall the exact. Yeah. But his head was down into the ground. Cool. Like no longer, but he was no longer crawling. I can tell you that. So yeah, I say all that to say, I have dozens of other stories, but I say all that to say this platform, to make it very, very clear, people call it a drone. An MQ-9 Reaper is not a drone. It's an unmanned aerial vehicle. There's always someone behind the trigger. It doesn't kill people indiscriminately.
Right.
So there are obviously times where wrong actions happen, but that's with any airframe, any weapon system, from a human all the way up to, an aircraft. As seen in the final days of Afghanistan, there was a major mistake made. Yeah. So
I think that's a whole other podcast.
That is. Yeah. No, very interesting.
Yeah. No, but like I dig sitting in class with you because you talk about it. Oh, I did have a question. Do you guys ever hear those stories though about like the dudes on the ground, overall mission impacts? Like, do you guys get the board that says everything that happened? And
no. So there's a lot of times that you or some of your buddies are around. Mm-hmm. Like we'll even see y'all sometimes, but we don't get feedback as far as what y'all are doing unless we have to really dig it out or see it on the news 4 days later or now, right, 12 hours later after a clandestine operation has occurred.
Super secret.
Yeah. It has quick. Everyone thought we were the ones to get Soleimani, and we're like, no, we were not. Albeit good, like cool,
yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, got him, but was not us.
Okay. So, but I think one of the things that comes across in class is,
let me be clear, was not us as far as my unit that I was attached to in Kuwait.
We have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea who did it, but it wasn't our guys.
Yeah. You really love your job, it seems like. And you know what I mean? Like, so there are people that talk about their jobs and complain about it a little bit, but like when you get going on your work and all the things that go into it and how much work you're willing to put in, to move these systems around and to make them happen and just like loving the mission set, it really comes through. So like overall, like how rewarding, how difficult is the job? Like, cause maintenance it's tough.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm hearing. Obviously I've never done it.
Yeah. Maintenance is maintenance.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be maintenance. We'll always stay duly employed. That's the one thing is aircraft maintenance will never be done by a robot. There's certain things, there's certain areas that you have to get in and do. You have to also have passion to fix aircraft and to know that you're putting an aircraft back in the sky, whether it's a civilian airline or to support America and our national interests. I wouldn't say it's difficult. The difficult part is people. Okay. Right? People are difficult. Finding motivation factors are difficult. Performing the job isn't difficult. The MQ-9 airframe in and of itself is super easy. You break it down, the aircraft is only 34 foot long by 66 foot wide. Some of my best maintainers, and I say my maintainers, they're my team. Like, I just happen to make a little bit more money than them. They are some of the most amazing hard workers you've ever seen. They can take apart an aircraft, put it in a box, have it ready for airlift within 24 hours.
Jeez.
So that's what's so good about this, the agility of this aircraft is that it can be used anywhere around the world. Honestly, within, I'd say less than 5 days, it could go from Africa to Japan within 5 days if it didn't need to be reconstituted back in the United States.
Okay. So that'd be like on a schedule. You have to send it back and just rehash. whatever.
Right. Yeah. Get some things done, get some major inspections done. But yeah, just a green, like fully mission capable aircraft. You could pack it up, move it to say Indo-PACOM, and then have it ready, ginned up within, I'd say 5 days, 6 days, easy, as long as everything hits its mark.
Yeah, but you say it's not hard, but I think it's easy for you to say that. You're 17 years in.
Yeah.
You have a breadth of experience. Right. So you're like, it's not hard. But like a new airman showing up, like what are the challenges that you're going to see with someone straight out of school?
That's a good question. Knowing how to, that's why you have your 7 levels. That's why you have your staffs, your senior airmen, your senior airmen, your staff sergeants, and your tech sergeants. So E4s through E6s, more specifically E4s and the E5s, are the core of our maintenance community. Without those 2 ranks, we would cease to exist. Because God knows you don't want me out there turning wrenches anymore. No, the E3s and below are just understanding how to perform the job in and of itself. Because just because you have a technical order, which we call TOs, which shows you step by step and pictures, it's Army proof for all my Army guys out there. But it shows you how to do the job. That's not always exactly how you do the job.
Right.
So it's know-how. It's experience that they lack. But with the airmen that are above them with the right attitude and the right motivation, these guys get it like that. You only have to break this thing down a handful of times to really understand it. The engine's a little bit different. The engine, obviously takes a little bit more technical expertise to understand, a few classes. But that's why we put them through classes, to really understand the aircraft, the inner workings, and how to take it apart and put it back together.
Nice. Cool. I think it's a hard job. And I know, like, for my community, I think sometimes we come across as a little bit standoffish. When you're rolling back through Al-Udeid after a rotation, and you go to the chow hall, or you're sitting in the bra.
The bra, I remember that.
And then there's folks that are stationed there, and no offense to them, but they're like sit in office and do their job, and they're out there complaining. And I get it that their job has its own challenges, but like I don't think we're elitists. But like, I don't have a lot in common with that person. You know what I mean? Right. And so that satisfaction of working really hard and putting in those hours, like that breeds a kind of like a culture where, I'm sure maintainers can come across as, not just a little bit crass at times, but, like thinking we're a little bit better than you. But
slightly arrogant.
Slightly. But it's just a perception, right? But like, you're just proud of, like when you put in a 14, 18-hour day. Yeah. And Airman Snuffy is complaining about the 8-hour day they put in an office, and I get it. It's not the easiest job in the world, but it's just like it breeds a different kind of person. Yeah,
no, it does. And that's a great point. Everyone's job is valuable, right? But everyone's job is not equally as valuable. And I hate it might hurt some feelings for an admin troop that hears it, but I would venture to say at the end of the day, our customer at the end of the day, very end of the day for the MQ-9s are special tactics, Army units, Marines, Navy. But more so it's the pilot. So we're presenting an aircraft customers. We're customer service really at the end of the day. Yeah. We could make it in tough times without an administrative troop doing EPR pushes. So not taking anything away from their job, but there's just levels of value that we have. So without a maintainer working on the aircraft and getting it up in the air, the special tactics airmen on the ground wouldn't have this aircraft. Now, that's not the same to say that a finance person is absolutely needed. That could be subcontracted by, and that, by the way, my wife is finance. She's going to hear this and she's going to slap the shit out of me. But so just FYI. But
it's a risk I'm willing to take.
It happens. I've been hit worse by her before. All right, y'all. If y'all don't hear from me anymore, y'all report me missing. But yes, it doesn't. The value and worth of a maintainer.
I don't know if it's value.
No, maybe not value. Maybe I'm hitting on the wrong.
Amount of energy you have to put in. It's hard to explain.
It's the importance of the subset of jobs within the Air Force. Every airman as a person is equally as important. I don't want to take away from a person. But the job in and of itself of an aircraft maintainer or special tactics airman, these guys that are on the getting up towards the tip of the spear as special tactics is, we're below. I mean, we're not fighting people, but we're providing those assets.
Yeah. And
that's what keeps my airmen going. And I tell them, I'm like, y'all are the best. Like y'all are the best. Y'all are maintainers. Y'all are putting these aircraft in the air, and y'all are saving people's lives directly. You're three-ish stops behind the kill chain.
Yeah.
Really. So the next spot is pilot, and then you know. So
no, I love everybody. Like, obviously, like, I'm a people person. Like, everybody I meet in the Air Force, I dig their job. But like, I think I recognize some of that, that mentality.
Right.
When you guys are in class and talking about your stuff, and there's that pride that comes along with it. And I think that's something that is hard to see from the civilian side. Is it's like, oh, well, you're like you work on aircraft. Like, what do you get out of it? But like, I see it in class every day. Like when you actually talk about your job, and we're not, veering off into whatever else that is.
Taking left turns, taking 4 left turns.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. And one of the things that surprised me is hearing you and one of the other guys talk is how mobile you guys really are. Like how agile you are. Like your guys' stories about like how many places you've been and how many operations you affect. Like, can you talk about that a little bit? Like how often do you blow out to just go get a mission done?
Yeah, to keep it on class, it's there's a lot of things in works always, right? With test and evaluation squadrons and things like that. So I'll leave it at that. Like for future MQ-9 capabilities, but no one should be unaware of the ACE concept that is in the Air Force or that is coming in as an agile combat employment, to where we can move and keep the enemy unaware of what we're doing at any given time. And we're really going to be employing that with the MQ-9s coming out. It's going to be a hard go. There's always roadblocks, but the one thing that I can tell you with the Air Force is that we continue to always either break those roadblocks or just tumble right over them, and then we get back on our feet and we go. So this aircraft has the ability to land in multiple locations. It's very, very, its ability to move freely is very good. It has a pretty good signature in the air, but as we saw in Libya, but, when that thing went tumbling down, but
yeah,
sometimes shit happens.
It does. No, I think it's pretty rad. I think I'm going to do an ad read real quick though.
Okay.
Because you guys go everywhere. What do you need everywhere? Like what do you got to have to keep going? Like you're out there on the flight line. It's super hot. And I got the answer. Surprisingly, it's hoist. Hoist is IV level hydration. It's got great flavors, and it's a company that we work with, and I absolutely love. So I haven't given you a hoist yet. I will.
I do need one.
I'm a bad friend.
Yeah, I was wondering where we were going with that. I was getting excited and nervous at the same time.
Yeah. But I mean, you see me. I drink all kinds of stuff in the classroom. It's usually in my jug. But staying hydrated. It is one of those things where you meet different people and you connect with them and their products or their services. And all the companies that we hang out with, obviously I think the world of them. So Hoist, love you. Use the code One's Ready at checkout. Get yourself a discount. It's your first ad read that you've ever done on a podcast, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I got excited.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's a new world for me.
I think you should actually be hosting your own podcast. I think you're better at this than I am.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see one day. I'll get me one of these little fancy microphones.
It's not that fancy.
Yeah.
So, where do you go from here? You're E8 Select, working on MQ-9s. Where does the aircraft go, or what's next for you? Like, what does it look like as you move up the chain? Because it's a little bit different for every AFSC. There's a lot of similarities, but sometimes a little bit different. Yeah.
So my plan, my future, not my plan, is Kunsan Air Force Base, South Korea. I'll be the sortie generation superintendent, which means it's a very fancy word for I'm going to be the individual in charge of maintenance on the aircraft, the main individual, the lead production superintendent. So you got sortie generation like production superintendents, and you have the main production superintendent, which I will be. So I'll be managing F-16 aircraft, which is going to be a fighter aircraft, which I've never been on. I'll be frank with you. Like I'm usually pretty. I'm always pretty frank. I've never been accused of being quiet or
I think that's why you're
passive.
Here and nobody else in the class.
Yeah, right. But it's a little bit. It's going to be a challenge for me.
A little bit of trepidation.
Yeah, whatever that means. So I'm going to take that as offensive because I don't know what it means. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it. I'm not going to lie to you, but I always take everything. I think the reason why I've gone where I've gone in my career, albeit not without little dips and bumps in the road. making it to where I'm at in a time frame is always having that can-do attitude and being motivated and taking care of my airmen. So that's really at the end of the day what I want to do is go over there, take care of the mission and the airmen simultaneously. Because you take care of your airmen, that mission is going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, I already have my follow-on assignment, which is where I'm going after the 1-year tour. And it's going to be Hill Air Force Base, Utah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
It's pretty.
Elk Hunt Central now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. Black Rifle's out there. Their headquarters. Good people.
Yeah. Oh, I love Black Rifle. I have their little K-Cups right now. I bought them down at El Bass Pro. The Freedom Roast.
JT, the fact that you're not paying us for how often we talk about Black Rifle is a little hurtful. So
Brian Davis loves Black Rifle.
But you know, that's another thing that I get from you in class is how much you care about your people. And if you're not tracking, I don't want to bash senior NCOA, right? But some of the things that we talk about, I think sometimes, at least I take a little bit personally, because the curriculum comes at you like that's not something that you're doing. Is taking care of your people. You know, like, right. I'm like, do I really need to be learning this? Because I think that everybody that I work with, we do a pretty good job of taking care of our people. And like, if we see something wrong, you know how to deal with it. So, but I mean, I definitely get that from you that you're all about the people. Yeah.
There's frustrations within the class. I always come into these classes with the clear mind, open eyes. But when we hear certain keywords or you know, the what did you call them? Power words or buzzwords. The buzzword is the buzzword. I had to steer away, as you heard me a few times, from should. No, senior NCOs, senior non-commissioned officers must already know this information.
Right.
This class must be a class, not should. This class must be just a class to network and for people to understand different shortfalls of other career fields and maybe to even get a few more tools in their toolbox. Unfortunately, right now, I think it's slightly missing the mark. But the positive part of that is that this senior NCOA Academy and the instructors and their commandant are so open to feedback. Yeah. And I'm excited to see what happens in the future because I think they're going down the right route.
Yeah.
I don't even know what shade of color I am, if I'm an orange, blue, green, or gold, purple. I forgot, right? The shades of the shades of the Air Force or who I am, or the OODA loop, the observe or orient, observe, decide, act, or, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm very, I'm happy about the people I've met and I've developed relationships with and understood, because also it's not really an open forum for everyone to speak as well, even though it's presented that way. I wish there'd be more crosstalk, because if it comes across as if people are nervous or offended of whatever conversations we might have, right? We'll keep them in the classroom, but they don't speak up. But that's what's needed. Just because I'm loud, obviously people are on this podcast from this freaking guy's loud.
No, I dig it.
I can't help it. I was told that today by somebody. I was like, holy moly, dude. Yeah, I know. I've been around myself for a number of years.
Acutely aware.
Yeah. I gave him the gasp. I was like, oh, what do you mean? But yeah, man, my hope on the subject of senior and COA is that at least a few people take some of the information we have. Right, albeit it might be emotional at times. I call it passion. That's what everyone that's emotional says. But I feel as what my conduct is and the way I perceive things as being right inherently. Because if you go back home and ask any of my airmen, they all know Master Sergeant Davis is an asshole, but he's a loving one, and I take care of them in every breath that I take when I go to work, and even at home, right? I'm willing to do anything for them. So
you got that purpose.
Yeah.
No, I think that shines through, and I think a lot of us are going to walk away from this course with that. The most valuable piece is that crosstalk, the learning about the greater things in the Air Force, because we do tend to get stovepiped. You know, like I live in my little bubble.
Yeah.
But that's why I love, like, one of the best things about doing a podcast is we have been branching out outside of our bubble a little bit, and I think it's fascinating.
I love it. Yeah.
So this is really more like just for me.
Yeah,
less for them. I don't care if they get anything out of it.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope somebody does. They'll probably be this aircraft.
No, it's awesome. We're getting towards the end. I want to circle back. So like we did kind of like your career-ish in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The very beginning, Brian Davis, 18 years old.
18. Mm-hmm.
Like from, I don't want to put everything out there, but like where you came from, why you joined the Air Force, like what led you into this this crazy life.
Yeah. Jackson, Mississippi, or Flowood, a little suburb of Jackson, Mississippi, the capital. Flowood is what we used to call it. Right. So Jackson, Mississippi is the capital of the great state of the southeast of Mississippi, the great state of the southeast. So it's like I'm sounding like Texas. But I got to calm down, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
But no, I was freshly graduated high school, had zero idea where I wanted to go in life. I was good with my hands. I wanted to weld initially. I was either leaving, quitting. So quitting and leaving, same thing, or getting fired from jobs. Really, at like a very fast pace. Like I was running out of places in Flowood, Mississippi to get hired at.
Yeah.
And one day I went to a welding shop, and they said, "No, we're not hiring, man. Just come back 2 months from now." And I took a right off from Airport Road onto what we call Lakeland Drive. And I looked over and I saw the Air Force office, and I said, "You know what? My mom and dad have always talked to me." Yeah. They said, "Hey, go work on aircraft." So it keyed in my brain. I went in, and the rest is history. So I was my then girlfriend, now wife of 17 years, was ended up being with child, which is now my beautiful 16-year-old daughter who works at old McDonald's. Recently started.
It's a rite of passage.
Rite of passage. Yes, she smells like fries and other unspeakable things that involve McDonald's every night, but that's fine. Yeah, it makes me not want to eat McDonald's at all ever again. But yeah, that's what came to be is I didn't have a purpose. And I'll tell you, man, I don't ever, anytime someone says they're doing 4 years and getting out, 6 years and they're done, good. I congratulate that. I absolutely side with Chief Bass on that. Is I want you to get this experience and go out and be a very credible and reliable citizen of the United States and spread the word of the Air Force. Hopefully it's a good experience.
Yeah.
But do something. Get something out of the Air Force, because the Air Force is going to ask a lot of you. Get something out of the Air Force, school, qualifications, savings account, something.
Yeah.
So definitely do not regret my time in the Air Force. I love it. I love the people. I love the aircraft, and I love our mission. So,
I mean, I almost don't want to ask the last question because that was so fantastic. But we always ask one piece of advice for folks that are thinking about joining.
Be open-minded. That's it. Be open-minded to understand that it is, at the end of the day, a huge opportunity to be able to serve your nation. Don't go into a recruiter's office and say, "I'm going to get this job," because it just doesn't happen. Unless you want to be a special tactics airman, they will put you right into that, or a linguist, or a few other high specialty jobs. But there's a job for everyone. And like I said earlier, I'm just going to circle back on it one time. Every job is valuable. I think I used the wrong word. It's just there's very, very important jobs, and there's jobs that are support functions. But every job is highly worthwhile and highly valuable. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you'll get those skill sets out of it. Right.
Yeah, be open-minded.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good because, as you try to explain things, one of our things is we try to be authentic. We don't, script things out. I don't give you a list of questions because I think that's one of the powerful things about this project is, like, this is what we actually think. Like, we just sat down and started talking. So man, I really appreciate you sitting down.
Thanks for having me.
It's not that I haven't asked anybody else in the class, but Brian's the only one that said yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just kidding, dude. I love it. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, go check out our sponsors. Go to onesradio.com, get your merch and check things out. Leave us reviews. And we'll catch y'all later. Train hard.